My name's James and I paint minis. This is Spoon 37 Minis.
Right, today we're highlighting the Goliath gang. The grey pants you saw last time are being highlighted with ash grey from the army painter. They've already been base coated with 2 coats of uniform grey, also from the army painter. Now I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing here. The methodology is fairly simple. Any creases, any raised areas, anywhere that obviously would be naturally under light or highlighted or raised up are just simply being painted over with a small amount of ash grey, simply a lighter grey, in order to make the pants look highlighted but also quite rough and worn. That's the idea of doing this. So it is quite a harsh highlight, but it should serve to make the pants look kind of, you know, worn and used and what have you. Now, compared to doing the base coats, there's a lot less area to paint, so obviously it doesn't actually take very long to get through these stages because you're only painting a small area, you're just being fairly selective. There are a number of creases, as you can see here, so obviously each one of them needs painting, but once you've got through that, it really doesn't take very long. Now, the large sections on the upper leg are very easy to get to, but obviously once you're out of the creases on the back, it's a lot harder to see which bits need highlighting and which don't, so there's a bit of twisting and turning and figuring out where the highlight goes. And also, of course, with everything around it, it's hard to get the brush in sometimes, so I do have to twist it every which way. Beyond that, the area between the bootstraps is really fiddly because, of course, ideally I don't want to paint the bootstraps. I know I'm going to paint over them later, but in an ideal world you just paint over the grey just as a little highlight. You see I can start it off here and just highlight a little bit where it's creased and where it's like the peak of a crease is sticking up. That's where it will be highlighted only. Now, because this is just highlighting in one colour and there's only one coat, this is quite a bit shorter a video than usual. I will of course show 2 of the Goliaths just so that you get the idea as I have been doing. But as you can see, that's pretty much it for this guy. So here's how he looked after 2 coats of grey, particularly focusing on the pants, which kind of looked like plain, if not rather plasticky. And then after the highlights, it's a bit rough, but you can see the lighter grey areas all over the pants. That's what we're going for. Moving on to the gang boss. This one's a little more easy because he's got a lot less stuff around the legs, so you can actually see a lot more of the legs. On the other hand, that means there are large areas where you kind of have to make it up as you go along because, you know, there's certain raised areas, but it's a bit of a, I don't want to say grey area, but a sort of grey area as to where the highlight ends. So you just have to kind of make it up as you go along, and if you mess up, you can always go back to the darker colour and paint over it. Just like before, painting the peak of each crease is comparatively simple, so there's a lot to do where the legs are creased at the back of the leg, bit hard around the front where there's less defined edges, but you can still kind of see which bits are raised up and which aren't. Now, having said there are less accessories around, you still have to be careful, of course, of the armor plate on his leg, the pouch and the mask off to the side. And of course there is the tricky area around the bootstraps as well. But otherwise this is comparatively quick and easy. Again, having to twist and turn just to get into certain angles. Fairly standard stuff with a paint holder. That's really why we use them, so we don't have to handle a painted model. And yet we can still get in all of the angles. I do apologise for not being able to see quite what I'm painting, but there is a fiddly bit sort of under one leg that I can only do from a certain angle, and I'm actually slightly to the side of the camera, so if you see that happen, it's simply so that I can see what I'm doing rather than aiming it at the camera and hoping I'm painting in the right place. But here we go, just doing the last little bits in between the bootstraps and hopefully not going over the edges too much. And then that'll be both of them done. And there we go. So we started off looking like this with 2 coats of the uniform grey, just a kind of solidly, almost like grey plastic colour. And then after the highlights it is quite rough again, but it does look like very worn cloth with a lighter grey highlight.
Right, if you watched this far, first of all, thank you for watching. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell-shaped icon so you can get notifications about future videos. I hope they will be coming out soon.